Recently, me and my friend visited a local DMV office, which is Department of Motorized Vehicles, and today I want to tell you about how to get ID, the driver license in America, if it's complicated or not, and how to drive in America in general. Okay, let's go. So usually when you come to America, you already have your driver license, and if this driver license has the information about you in English and the photo, it means that you are able to use this driver license to drive in America for several months or so, and depending on the state. And I know that some people are using the old driver license for a long time, like years, because cops usually don't stop you here without a reason. But it's very important to get the ID here because it's your main identifying document. It's more important than a passport. Many Americans don't have the passport at all, uh, at least some of them who are not traveling abroad. And if you have your ID or driver license, it's enough to travel inside of the country. But soon as I know, you will be required to get a special driver license, which is called Real ID, to be able to fly to other states. Anyway, it's possible to get just an ID, which will identify you, or a driver license in case if you pass the driver tests, and after that you will be able to drive. Be ready that this procedure is not fast because DMV is very slow department organization, and sometimes you need to wait for months to book an appointment and visit DMV. Or you still have a chance to go there and just wait in a line. And if you will be lucky, you will pass your exam at the same day. But usually it's a lot of people in DMV, starting from young people like 14s and so on, and including very old elderly people who are moving very slow with some stick, and still they need to drive because everybody is driving in America, and without that you cannot move around because in America usually they don't have a public transportation at all. So let's say you are ready to pass your exams and you already have the car. Uh, First of all, if you are young, like 14, depending on the state, you still need to take special lessons with a local instructor to check your skills. And you need to pass theory test and behind the wheel test, so two different tests, and you need to pass them in different time. Okay, first of all, you need to pass the theory test, which includes many questions, something about 46, and you need to answer 38 or more correctly. When you go there, you take a picture, then you go to the computer and you start answering the questions. You have usually enough time to do that, and you will know at the end if you passed or not. And you have 3 attempts. After that you need to pay some fee and wait for a couple of weeks to repeat your attempts. Sometimes you need to pass the theory test when you are refreshing your ID or trying to get a new version of ID, so it's a typical procedure. And after that you need to pass behind the wheel tests, like real driving with an instructor. You need to know that somebody needs to drive with you to the DMV office. You cannot use Uber or something like that, or a taxi. You need to take your own car to pass the exam using it, and somebody who is following you needs to present his or her ID as a registration desk, and after that you both are waiting in the line for the instructor to come to you, and the instructor is asking lots of questions. They're asking about the equipment of the car, checking signals, lights, and so on. They check how well you know the car, if you are able to operate it in any conditions. So typically several means of questions to understand if you are ready for the real driving test. And after that, you and instructor are driving for 10-15 minutes in the town. And the instructor is telling you what you need to do, where you need to drive, whenever you need to stop. They are checking your skills in different situations, if you are able to pull over or drive rear away, if you know limits, speed limits in business area or residential area, and so on. They usually don't tell you feedback instantly. They just checking what you're doing and writing in some journal. And at the end, when you returned to the DMV office, they will tell you if you passed or not, and will give you some recommendations how better you need to drive. You can make 15 small errors or several critical errors, depending on the situation. For example, if you drive too fast or too slow, like 10-15 miles above or behind the recommended speed limit, you won't probably pass at all. So that's why you need to do everything that instructors tell you and demonstrate your knowledge of the road. And once you pass the test, you will get your driver license in 3 months. When you are checking in, you need to tell your address. You need to show the car insurance and the car registration. And to prove that your address is valid, you need to show some bills which will confirm that you are living in this place. Now, let's say you already have your driver license. Let's talk a bit about how it's easy or complicated to drive in USA. I will be comparing it with my own country, which is Russia. So usually the drivers here are more polite, and you have to keep in mind that usually the roads here are in really good conditions, and the cars themselves are new mostly, and you usually don't see people trying to overtake cars on the sidelines, for example, in the traffic jam, or signaling you if you're doing something wrong, because lots of people are driving here and they drive sometimes not ideally, because it could be, for example, elderly people or some immigrants. And actually, yes, there are a lot of people here who come and still don't know how to drive properly. They don't know properly the local rules, driving rules. For example, many people arrive here and they start their own business in Uber. They just buy the car and they register in Uber or similar company. They don't need usually to pass any special tests, and they still can start driving just in several days after they came to America. So sometimes they even don't know English well, they just use their own navigators, and sometimes they make some mistakes while they are driving. Some people also prefer buying muscle cars or sports cars, and of course they want to drive fast, and these people usually go in some rural areas, mountain areas, and they can drive their own cars there. And usually police is not pushing you, they cannot stop you if you're doing everything right. And for example, if you exceed the speeding limit like 5 miles above the limit, it's still okay. Many people do this, and cops won't stop you. But it depends on the state. In some states, they are more strict, their laws are more strict. So when you are crossing the line between different states, you need to keep it in mind that the speeding limits can be different, and the cops can behave differently. I still see road rangers here and there, and sometimes they pull over people who demonstrate reckless driving, for example. And sometimes rangers tries to calm down the traffic when they see that people drive too fast. For example, they can cross different lines, and when people see them, they try to drive more slowly. So it's definitely helping to calm down the traffic. Sometimes I'm able to identify if a driver is from my country, for example, by the driver plate, because they're using some fun words, which sounds familiar if you know this language, and so on. And sometimes if it's possible even to identify a person by the style how they driving. I mean the nationality. For example, in Russia we are using hazard lights as a way to say thank you. For example, if somebody let you go in front of you, but here it looks suspicious, and if you do it here, somebody could even call cops because they could think that somebody is happening in your car. For example, you have hostages or something like that in your car, and they are just signaling you. So we discussed how to drive in America, but we didn't talk about how it is to travel in America, how to get the car in America, and what you need, how do you behave with cops and so on. Feel free to ask the questions in the comments, and bye.